Other social justice warrior nonsense from the world of sports. The Washington Redskins have renamed. They're now called the Washington Football Team. I'm not kidding. That's a real thing. Redskins, it wasn't just that the term Redskins was offensive. Now, again, there are polls that have been done over the past 10 years. It shows that Native Americans did not care about this issue. There was a poll done about 7 years ago. It showed 9 out of 10 Native Americans not only didn't care, they actually kind of thought that the name was cool because you had a bunch of people who were actually rooting for a team named after Native Americans. But the Washington Redskins were pressured because of George Floyd or something into removing the name. Okay, fine, I understand. Like, you think that one's offensive. But here's the problem. There is no limiting principle to renaming anything that could possibly be found offensive. So Washington could not find a new name. This is not the Onion. It's not the Babylon Bee. The Washington team could not find a new name. They've renamed themselves the Washington Football Team. So I designed a logo for them that really emphasizes the team aspect of it. And the logo looks a little something like this. Looks like that right there. You see, like, Washington Football Team, big T right there in the middle. It looks like WTF, but actually it's WFT, right? The T is just big in the middle. I think we've gone woking a little too much here, guys. The Washington Football Team. Exciting, exciting stuff. Established in 1932. They won't change their color scheme. They're still going to use burgundy and gold. But apparently the rebranding process takes 12 to 18 months. And according to Terry Bateman, the franchise's new executive vice president and chief marketing officer, he says if you want to do it right, you got to take a deep breath, take a step back, go through the process. We want to do it right. We just couldn't figure out what the hell to call the team. So we're now the Washington Football Team. America getting better, one stupid renaming at a time. Well done. Well done. And by the way, in other politics and sports, Anthony Fauci threw out the first pitch at the Washington Nationals New York Yankees opening day game. It didn't go great for him. So let's just put this out there. Anthony Fauci's 80 years old. I wouldn't expect him to fire in a fastball. But there are a few kind of oddities about this. One is he's wearing a Washington Nationals mask in the middle of a completely empty stadium, which you don't actually need to do. And second of all, it's not a good first pitch. I mean, let's just point that out. Is that important? Absolutely not. It's not important. But that doesn't mean we can't make fun of it. I mean, here he is throwing a first pitch. The only first pitch I've seen that really is as weak as this first pitch. Barack Obama threw a real weak first pitch at the All-Star game in, 2011? This was not good here from Anthony Fauci. He gets up there. He really flattens the curve. Here he is throwing up, and there it goes, right down the first base line. And fake crowd noise cheering that on. So Anthony Fauci, by the way, the reason that it is incredible how Anthony Fauci has, it seems like we keep doing this over and over because of Trump. Like people buying votive candles of Robert Mueller. If Fauci won't perceive to be at odds with Trump, would there be anybody who's worshiping Fauci at this point? Of course not. You don't see Deborah Birx throwing out the first pitch, do you? Anybody who's actually serving in the administration is not worthy of throwing out the first pitch. Only when Fauci opened a gap between himself and Trump was there this feeling that Fauci was now national hero number one, again, to the point where he's throwing out first pitches. It was, the good news is that Fauci ensured once again that nobody could catch anything. By the way, I'm wondering, like, Fauci's being celebrated as a national hero. Like, I'm glad that he served the country in a lot of ways, right? He helped solve HIV. And he's actually done an enormous number of very good things in his life. But, I mean, the handling of the pandemic, if it's so bad for most Americans, Fauci was in the president's ear for months on end. At some point, you got to say that it's not going that great. Either it's going great or it ain't going that great. By the way, that was the worst first pitch since 50 Cent threw one out at the Cubs game a few years back. Or the Mets game, yeah. It did not go well. Yeah. It was pretty similar. I will say that he got a little more distance on his throw than Fauci, but 50 Cent is probably in his 30s. Fauci's in his 80s. So to be fair. Now, not to shoeshine the president here, but the president does have a better throwing motion. There was a video that came out yesterday in which he's throwing with Mariano Rivera. So here we can compare a 70-year-old man throwing a baseball to Mariano Rivera with an 80-year-old man throwing a baseball at the national game. He's got a pretty good motion. I mean, I'll admit that. The president of the United States has a fairly decent motion right there. All of this is silliness, but baseball should be the great distraction. It is no longer the great distraction. We have to load up the social justice messaging. Also, every element of American life should be turned into social justice messaging to the point where everything becomes entirely stupid. There's a singer-songwriter I'd never heard of named Conan Gray. Conan Gray apologized yesterday for his use of emojis. He said, many of you have brought to my attention my use of tan emojis. I apologize to anybody who was hurt by my use of emojis that you believe are too dark for me to use. I am mixed race. I chose to use the emojis that I felt best represented my skin tone. Most of you have never met me in real life and are unaware of how I look in person. I am not pale. I am not white. I am mixed race. I was only trying to find an emoji with a skin tone that felt most accurate to me and my background. So this guy's now apologizing for the use of emojis. We've made the country better, gang. Everything is moving in the right direction. I feel excited. Everything has to be political. Emojis, sports. Hollywood has to get even more political. Michael B. Jordan, the major star of Creed, among other movies, he came out, he said that Hollywood has to defund the police. So that's exciting stuff. He said Hollywood has to divest from the police and invest in black talent and careers. And hire independent security firms, apparently. Very easy for Michael B. Jordan, who's being taken care of by studios in terms of his security. Good times from Michael B. Jordan. Again, the country is just getting better. Can't you feel the wokeness healing the country? Can't you feel the wokeness oozing out of the pores of America, covering us all up in a great, wondrous coating of protective joy, and just binding the country together? I feel like we're doing so much better now, don't you? Everything's just way better right now, in every way. The Sierra Club, by the way, is apologizing for John Muir, so that's exciting too. Like, every aspect of SJW nonsense now has to be humored. The executive director of the Sierra Club apologized on Wednesday for the substantial role the group played in perpetuating white supremacy. They condemned John Muir for friendships and views he had. We're canceling John Muir now, so that's exciting stuff. That is because John Muir was friends with eugenicists and was kind of a racist. But I just have a question. Did they found the Sierra Club because he was a racist? Nope. But doesn't matter. Sierra Club's now apologizing for John Muir. I guess we're going to rename the high schools. It says, for all the harms the Sierra Club has caused and continues to cause to black people, indigenous people, and other people of color, I am deeply sorry. Yeah, the cultural revolution continues apace. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.